At this point, Jerry Williams going to the experience and putting Lloyd in at the middle linebacking position. First and goal to go, Ron Johnson. Touchdown, Giants.
Well, hello. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to check out this video. And welcome to the Gridiron. And before we get started, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone out there who's been watching my videos. Thank you. If you give this video maybe a thumbs up or possibly leave a comment below or maybe share this video, it would mean so much to me. But just, anyway, at least thank you so much for just taking time out of your day to check out this video. Thank you. As it sounds, from it was 3 years back in the late 70s and early 80s where the Giants and the Buccaneers weren't in the same division, right? But they actually played each other 2 times. 1978, 1979, and 1984. They played each other 2 times. Bit odd. And actually, not one of those seasons, but there was another one of those seasons where Tampa Bay was not even in the NFC. They were in the AFC. More on that in just a second. What happened was for the this oddity for the Giants playing the Buccaneers 2 times. When there was the NFL merger in 1970, okay, but it was 26 teams in the NFL. Obviously 13 in the NFC, 13 in the AFC. And the way it worked out was with the Giants, there was the 5 teams in their division. There was the Redskins, the Cowboys, the Eagles, the Cardinals, and the Giants. So there was a 14-game schedule. So the Giants played 2 against the Eagles, 2 against the Redskins, 2 against the Cowboys, 2 against the Cardinals. So that was 8 games. They played 14. Left them with 6 games extra. So basically the way it kind of worked out in the beginning, right after the merger in 1970, was they played 3 teams from the NFC and they played 3 teams from the AFC every year. Those were their 6 extra teams, games that they played. 1970, they played the Saints, the Bears, and the Rams from the NFC. From the AFC, they played the Jets, the Patriots, and the Bills. 1971, in the NFC, they played the Packers, the Vikings, and the Falcons. In the AFC, they played the Colts, the Steelers, and the Chargers. 1972, in the NFC, the 3 teams they played in the NFC was the Lions, the Saints, and the 49ers. The 3 teams in 1972 they played from the AFC was the Broncos, the Bengals, and the Dolphins. And just one more season here, just kind of give you a little taste. 1973, the 3 teams they played in the NFC was the Packers, the Rams, and the Vikings. 1973, the 3 teams that they played in the AFC were the Oilers, the Browns, and the Raiders. Now you'll notice there was a couple duplicates in the NFC. All right, but in the AFC, the first 4 years, every team they played was different. There was 13 teams in the AFC, obviously each, So they played 3 teams each year from the AFC. So in the first 4 years, they played 12 teams from the AFC, 12 different teams from the AFC. So in 1974, the only team they didn't play in those first 4 years from the AFC was the Chiefs. So in 1974, they played the Chiefs on the road. Both teams were absolutely pathetic, but it would wind up becoming, it was a great game. Came down to the last second. Giants were winning. Chiefs were driving. Chiefs got, I forgot who the ball carrier was. Somebody caught a pass, got tackled like around the 1-yard line. And if you scored a touchdown, the Chiefs would have won. But the Giants tackled them around the 1. Chiefs had no more timeouts, and the clock ran out, and the Giants won. The Giants only won 2 games all year. That was one of them. If the Chiefs had one more play, they probably would have scored a touchdown, and the Giants would have won 1 game all year. But very, very good game. Anyway, but that's how it kind of went in the early 70s. That's, from the Giants' perspective. They played 3 teams from the NFC and 3 teams from the AFC. When 1976 rolled around, the Seattle Seahawks and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers rolled into town. They came into the NFL. So now you got 28 teams. They still only played 14 games. All right, so I guess they were kind of able to manage the schedule where everybody played each other just maybe like one time outside of their own division and all that and everything. But what happened in 1978, they went to a 16-game schedule. So I guess the way it was with the making of the schedule, it kind of threw things off a little bit. So the way they had it was the NFC Central had 5 teams. It's kind of like the way it is this year. The NFC Central had 5 teams, right? At Tampa Bay, the Vikings, the Packers, the Bears, and the Lions. The NFC East, where the Giants were at, had the 5 teams. So basically, to make this schedule, I guess, even, they had it where whoever, like, whatever your position was, like in 1977, whoever the last place team was in the NFC East played the last place team in the NFC Central 2 times to make up for the extra 2 games. All right, so the Giants were in last place in the NFC East in 1977, and the Buccaneers were in the last place from the NFC Central after 1977. The Buccaneers were 2-12. So the Giants played, to make up, it was a 14-game schedule, then it went to a 16-game schedule. So to make up those extra 2 games, that's how they did it. The 2 teams, like whoever wound up in first place in the NFC East, played the team in the first place in the NFC Central. That's basically how it went. So the Giants wound up playing the Buccaneers 2 times. The same thing happened after the 1978 season. It was the same thing. The Giants and the Buccaneers were both in last place. So they wound up playing each other 2 times in the 1979 season. Now, that's how they wound up making up. But the first year, all right, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I'm not exactly sure who the hell came up with this schedule, this configuration. The Buccaneers were actually, the first year in 1976, were actually in the AFC. You ready for this? AFC West. Tampa Bay in Florida was over here in the AFC West with Oakland, San Diego Chargers, right? The Kansas City Chiefs and the Denver Broncos. Who the hell came up with that one? The Seattle Seahawks, okay, were actually in the NFC West, which makes some sense. Seattle's in the West. The NFC West is in the West. So they were in the West with the New Orleans Saints, the Atlanta Falcons were in the West, but they were also with the Rams and the 49ers. So the Seattle Seahawks were out there in the NFC West for 1 year. The next year, the Einsteins at the NFL reconfigured it. They took the Seattle Seahawks for some reason from the NFC West and put them in the AFC West. So then Seattle was in the West, but so you got Seattle out there with Denver, Kansas City, Oakland, San Diego, and Seattle. So that made sense. Seattle was in the AFC West till 2002 when they did the reconfiguration until they had the way it is now. There's like four divisions in the NFC, 4 divisions in the AFC. But Seattle was in the AFC West until 2002. All right. But in 1977, the Bucs went from the AFC West to the NFC Central. Basically, I guess it makes sense. I mean, Chicago, Detroit, Green Bay, Minnesota are all up in the north, but Tampa Bay, it is what it is. But they're, I guess, a little centrally located. But anyway, so Tampa Bay, for the first year in existence, they weren't even in the NFC. They were in the AFC. Now, from 1976 to 1984, right, the first 9 years, the Bucs existence, the Giants and the Bucs played 8 times, and they weren't even in the same division. Right. Now the first year they played, they played back to back, 2 games. They played it was in 1978. The first game that they played in 1978, right, the Giants played in Tampa Bay. Actually, the season opened up. It was a Saturday night. For some reason, I don't know why. They had like the 2 worst teams in all of football open up the NFL season in Tampa Bay. I don't know. Why wouldn't you want to have like, like the 1970, like the defending Super Bowl champion Dallas Cowboys open up against somebody, but it was what it was. So the Giants went to Tampa, and they opened up the season in Tampa on a Saturday night. Doug Williams, quarterback, was a rookie, right, for Tampa. The Giants were actually a 1-point underdog. Tampa Bay was 2-26 after their first 2 seasons in the NFL, and opened up their 3rd season At home, they were actually a 1-point favorite. Oh, that shows you how bad the Giants were back then. Oh, absolutely horrible. The Giants wound up winning. They won 19-13. There was a couple of big play. I mean, Johnny Perkins had a 67-yard touchdown reception from Joe Pisarcik. Terry Jackson picked off Doug Williams' first ever pass in the NFL, ran it back 32 yards for a touchdown for the Giants. Giants had a grand total of 238 yards in the whole game. Tampa, you'll notice a little thing going on here. Kind of, you let me know. You just pick up something here. I'm going to keep giving some stats, so you let me know. All right. First game that they played here, back to back, right? The Giants had 238 yards total offense. Tampa Bay had 251 yards of total offense. The Giants ran the ball that day 35 times at 76 yards. They ran the ball for 2.2 yards per carry. You think we got it bad now? Wow. The Giants were 12 out of 25. They had one interception. They got sacked 4 times. Joe Pisarcik was 9 out of 15. Jerry Goldstein was 3 out of 10 for 27 yards passing. Absolutely unbelievable, pathetic. The second game that season, all right, the Giants, the game was in New York, or New Jersey, and the Giants won 17-14. The Giants were actually losing 14-3 in the fourth quarter, but then there was 2 Larry Zonka touchdown runs. They gave the Giants 14 points in the fourth quarter to give them the victory at 17-14. Tampa Bay, what did them? They had 4 turnovers that game. Joe Pisarcik was a whopping 4 out of 13. So you need to back off on Daniel Jones a little bit if you think he's doing bad. Joe Pisarcik was 4 out of 13 for 45 yards. Then, of course, Jerry Goldstein, right? He was 2 for 2 for a grand total of 18 yards. The Giants had 48 yards passing in that game. They had a grand total of, Giants had 218 yards, total yards. Tampa Bay had 262. 1979, they played each other twice once again. Right, the first game that season, it was in New Jersey. The Giants won 17-14. Phil Simms' first ever start in the NFL. Right, he went 6 for 12 for 37 yards passing. So once again, take it easy on Daniel Jones. You think it's bad now? You weren't living through it in the 70s. All right. 37 yards passing for the whole freaking game. I mean, oh my God. Billy Taylor was the star of the day for the Giants. He ran the ball 33 times for 148 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was the star. And Giants had a whopping, all right. Billy Taylor ran the ball for 148 yards. The Giants had a whopping 220 yards of total offense, all right. Buccaneers had 273 yards of total offense. A little theme going on here. See if you can pick it out. Right? The second game in the 1979 season, the Buccaneers, they got their revenge. The Bucs won 31-3. Phil Simms, here's a great stat for you. He was 17 out of 33. He had 2 interceptions. Okay? He got sacked 5 times. In those 5 sacks, he lost 75 yards on 5 sacks. That's hard to do. I mean, that's really hard to do. But he managed to do it. The Giants had a whopping 200 yards of total offense. The Buccaneers had 363 yards of total offense. I mean, there's a little theme going on there. So let's see if you can pick it out, right? The Giants had 4 turnovers. That's what pretty much did them in. Ricky Bell was the star of the day. He had 22 carries for 152 yards. He was a very good running back. And as I said, the Bucs won that one 31-3. Then in 1984, 1983, both teams wound up in last place once again. 1983 was the first year for Bill Parcells as a coach. The Giants were 3-12-1. The tie they had was a Monday night game, one of the saddest, absolutely most pathetic Monday night games you'll ever see in your life. The Giants tied the Cardinals 20-20 in overtime. They got to overtime and nobody could even score. They were missing field goals left and right. Nobody wanted to win that game. Absolutely pathetic. So anyway, in 1983, both teams wound up in last place. So, to make up for the extra 2 games and all that, Tampa Bay and the Giants played a home and home series once again. The Giants also did that too. I believe it was 1981. They played 2 games against the Packers as well. So Tampa Bay wasn't the only team that the Giants played 2 games against, but Tampa Bay, the Giants played them 3 times, and that's the most by far of any other team that the Giants wound up playing. So 1984, the first game the Giants played against Tampa Bay was in New York. The Giants won 17-14. As a matter of fact, the first 3 times the Giants and the Bucs played in New York, the Giants won by a score of 17-14. This is the first time that Lawrence Taylor, he was just licking his chops. First time he got to sink his teeth into the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because the Giants hadn't played the Bucs since 1980. Lawrence Taylor got drafted in 81. So this is the first time he got to play against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Steve DeBerg. Steve DeBerg was just like a wounded antelope out there. And Lawrence Taylor was like a cheetah, hungry cheetah on the prowl. He just ate Steve DeBerg up. I felt sorry for Steve DeBerg this day. Lawrence Taylor had 4 sacks this day. Phil Simms was 17 out of 34, 186 yards. He had 2 touchdown passes. Rob Carpenter, he did decent. He had 20 carries for 70 yards. The Bucs once again outgained the Giants 326-280. But once again, the Giants won the football game 17-14. Then the second game that they played each other in 1984 was obviously in Tampa. The Bucs won that one 20-17. Once again, the Buccaneers outgained the Giants 339-238. Every game, all 8 games. All right, the Buccaneers expansion team in 1977, when the Buccaneers were 2-12, and the Giants beat Buccaneers in Tampa Bay 10-0. The Buccaneers outgained the Giants. All 8 games from 1976 to 1984, the Giants and Bucs played 8 times. Every game, the Buccaneers outgained the Giants. That's how unbelievably pathetic the Giants' offense was back then. As I said, you think we're bad now. You're throwing stuff at Jason Garrett and all this, that, and the offensive line. Well, guys, you ain't seen nothing. You should have lived it back in the 70s and the 80s. We were horrible, absolutely horrible. Now, the Giants finished the 1984 season. They finished 9-7. They lost the 1 game to the Bucs, but they still finished 9-7. And they went to the playoffs. That was the first time that they ever went playoffs under Bill Parcells. The Giants, their playoff game in 1984, they went on the road and they beat the Rams 16-13. Then the next game they lost to the eventual Super Bowl champion San Francisco 49ers. They lost 21-10 in San Francisco. The Giants also played the Rams. That was the second time the Giants played the Rams in Los Angeles. Okay, so the second time they played them, they beat them in the playoffs 16-13. That was a pretty big upset, all right? Because earlier in the season, the Giants went out to Los Angeles and the Rams won 33-12. The Giants had both their extra points they missed. They missed a field goal. But the Rams were leading by a score of 17-6. They scored the next 2 times they scored. Both of them were by safeties. They were winning 17-6. They got a safety. They went up to 19-6. Then they got another safety. They went up 21-6. Let me know how many times you've seen it where back-to-back scores for one team were safeties. And not only that, the Rams had 3 safeties in this game. They blocked 2 punts and got knocked out of the end zone. One time, Phil Simms got sacked in the end zone. I think it was by Jack Youngblood. But the Giants had 2 punts blocked, got knocked out of the end zone for safeties. They had back-to-back scoring plays for the Rams were safeties. You don't see that very often. And not only that, but the Rams had 3 safeties in the game. Really, really sad. After the 1984 season, John McKay kind of hung it up. He had coached the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for 9 years. I mean, he had seen the bad, he had seen the good. I mean, he went off. They had a losing record that season. I think they were 6-10. But he started off 0-26 at Tampa Bay. But by their 4th season, he'd taken them to the championship game. And just to go to show you, all right, the Giants were an established football team. Tampa Bay wasn't. So Tampa Bay came in 1976. So from 1976 to 1984, when John McKay was the coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tampa Bay was 44 and 88. The Giants in that same period were 49 and 83. The Giants were only 5 games better than Tampa. And Tampa started off 0 and 26. And the Giants, after those 9 seasons, were only 5 games better. Just to go show you how sad those times were. And not only that, but from 1976 to 1984, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers went to the playoffs 3 times. And they went to the championship game once. They lost 9-0 at home to the Los Angeles Rams. Rams had a good team. Buccaneers didn't have a very good offense, but they had a great defense, but they lost 9-0. But from 1976 to 1984, right, the New York Football Giants only went to the playoffs 2 times. So you got to give the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a lot of credit, and John McKay. John McKay was a phenomenal football coach. He didn't get the credit he deserves, and he certainly did not get the good players that he deserved to start his career in Tampa. But I mean, he was a very, very good coach. Well, as always, guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to check out this video. You guys stay safe out there and go Giants! Woo!